Hey there, welcome to Takeaway with Sam Oches, a podcast from Nation's Restaurant News. I am Sam Oches, editor-in-chief here at NRN, and this is the show where I give you an all-access pass to the restaurant industry's most influential decision makers. This week, I'm talking with Bob Andersen. He is the president of the Great Greek Mediterranean Grill, a 30-unit fine fast casual concept that is looking to carve out a niche in the space between the traditional fast casual category and full service dining. And it's leveraging scratch-made high-quality food to do that. Bob joined the podcast to talk about the opportunities and the challenges in this fine fast casual category and how the brand is planning to go from about $50 million in sales today to $100 million or more in the next 12 months. In this conversation, you'll learn more about how the quality of your food has a direct impact on your customers' experience, why a great training program is key to franchising a more upscale concept, and why the traditional build-your-own fast casual model may have its limitations. Jumping now into my interview with Bob Andersen, the president of the Great Greek Mediterranean Grill. Also, don't forget to stick around after the interview as I will share my 6 takeaways from this discussion, actionable insights that you can take with you on the go. Have you heard about the California Food Service Instant Rebate Program? You can save up to $3,000 instantly on energy-efficient food service equipment when you purchase from participating dealers. Find out more at www.caenergywise.com/instant-rebates and find a participating dealer near you. Skip the paperwork and save instantly on your food service equipment. That's www.caenergywise.com/instant-rebates. Okay, Bob Andersen, the president of the Great Greek Mediterranean Grill. Bob, thanks so much for joining today. Bob, for those who are not familiar with the Great Greek, what's the story of this brand? What's it all about?
Yeah, it's a great story. And Sam, thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here with you and visit and share a little bit about the Great Greek brand. The brand's going into its 11th year, 12th year actually, next week. And, it started by a chef who had a passion for Mediterranean Greek food, a little bit ahead of the curve, I would say, at that point. And the theme of our brand is "Live Your Life Deliciously," and we take that all the way through from executives enjoying and loving and have a lot of passion for what we do to our guests to make sure that they're enjoying the better things of life. So the brand is a limited service brand, fast casual. And we feel an interesting niche. I think that, not that nobody else is in it. I have a lot of respect and a lot of admiration for companies like Chipotle and their style of service. But the Great Greek, we're not trying to be the next Chipotle in terms of service style. We want to deliver a product that we cook to your order. You get it on a real plate if you're sitting in our dining room with a real fork, real knife. We don't even have trash receptacles. So when you're done with your meal, you get up and leave, just like a full service environment. In fact, we'll stage your meal out to you. If you had a salad or an appetizer and then an entree and then a dessert, it gets staged out like full service. So we feel like our food service or food quality is at the higher end of the spectrum, and also the service level as well after you place your order. So we're finding our guests really like it. They want to eat the better and finer things. They want to eat a little bit more healthy. There's no better place than the Mediterranean space for that. We don't have to spend one penny on advertising that we're this healthy alternative. The medical community has done that for the brand for years. The doctors, medical environment are always recommending Mediterranean diet. And so, whether you're a vegetarian or a flexitarian or you're a meat eater like me, we can accommodate all those diet styles, even if you want to be gluten-free. So it really positions the brand to kind of check all the boxes.
Yeah. How many locations you guys at today?
Currently today we're at 30. In the next 30 days, we're going to open about 5 more. So we'll be at 35 and another 15 to 20 by the end of the year. So we'll be at 50, 55 by the end of the year. And more importantly, our stores are really robust. I mean, we're trending right now about 50 million system-wide sales. At the end of the year, we'll probably be a little bit above 80, 12, in the next 12 months, we'll be a $100 million brand with stores we have in the pipeline already. So some folks haven't heard about us yet. We're starting to get a little traction in markets where we have multiple stores. We're seeing a big lift from that as well. So it's a really exciting time for our brands. And we have some just phenomenal franchise operators who really make it happen with their frontline teams in the markets that we're in already.
Sure. So I think safe to say explosive growth. It sounds to me like what's going on with the Great Greek. Now, I want to explore just that sort of service mentality really quick because you guys identify that as fine, fast casual. And clearly, when you have real cutlery, real plates, no trash receptacles, that's certainly the ambiance, not of a fast casual, but more of a full service restaurant. I guess tell me about that decision because you said the guests really love it, but if you've been around for a decade, Great Greek's been doing this, since day one. What's behind that decision to offer a limited service experience, but still give those really high quality touches like you are?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And I think when you go back to the genesis of the person who created the brand, and for the people like me who've been fortunate now to jump into the brand, eating at the Great Greek is like having that meal at your grandmother's house,
Hmm.
right? It's that kind of feeling like there's so much passion and so much love put into making the food. We prep everything. We have a scratch kitchen. I know everyone wants to talk about making processes simpler and those kind of things, but we find just putting the time and effort and making the high quality food with high quality ingredients really changes that experience for the guests, not just in the dining room, even as business starts going off premise. And as you know, we're seeing more and more of that. So putting that quality product done right and that discipline to that is something that's still true in this brand. And it's because that passion of just having a great meal that you look at it and you're like, wow, you eat it and you're like, wow, those are the signals that we look for in our guests. So, I don't know if it was intentional when it was first created. It was just trying to recreate someone's experience in their family. I grew up in an Italian family in New York, so we had a lot of those same things, right? We got together, my aunts, my grandmothers, they cooked. We had amazing food, and it was a environment that was comfortable and casual. And if you walk into our restaurant, there's a nice little buzz. People are eating in groups and families. Mediterranean food's very communal. So all those things just kind of come together. I think the things that were intentional were having some real flavorful recipes, right? And really doing those right, and doing marinations right, and making our hummus fresh and the way we do it. Like those things were really intentional. Some of the other things become, I think, the passion piece. It's unintentional, but it's a result of people being passionate about the food and the experience, and they go
Yeah.
together really well up here, and that's what makes it different.
So I'm curious about the experience that the Great Greek customers are looking for. I mean, I'm sure it's all over the board, but typically what you see, because 11, 12 years ago when the brand first started, fast casual was just taking off. Quality was really the name of the game. Clearly, in the last 3 years, we've really kind of reverted back to speed, accessibility, convenience. Which what you're doing may fly a little in the face of that and is more of an opportunity to slow down. So I'm just curious, like, do you experience high dine-in business? Is it more dinner than lunch? Are you seeing that customer who might otherwise go to full service come in to the Great Greek?
Yeah, 100%, right? Our biggest threat to our service style would be the ticket time, and we find our guests are okay to wait. And I think it also, in a dine-in experience, most people are getting a salad or a hummus appetizer along with their entree. So they're sitting down and they're getting something usually within, 3, 4, 5 minutes. They're just not getting their entree yet. So that changes that game for us. So, if you got a well done lamb, because we'll cook the meat to your order. If you got a well done lamb, it's 14, 15-minute cook time. So a lot of people
Yeah.
think, how does that work? And so what we find is we'll do a lot more um, gyros at lunch, right? Because that's really where the press is at lunchtime. People really want a quick turnaround. We don't see it as much at dinner. And a lot of the business shifting off, not that it's not time sensitive, but if it's delivery, they're sitting at home. If it's pickup, they're coming to pick up when they're ready to pick up. So
Right.
those three things really kind of, for us, really, if we're executing in our ticket times, which is above 8 minutes in some cases, um, we're still getting a great result. Our guests are patient, or they're getting their food early. I think at the end of the day, if someone comes to a restaurant and they want that experience and we're delivering it, the 2, 3, 4 minutes doesn't matter, in my opinion, unless they're in a
Mm.
rush.
Does that then dictate your decisions on real estate? Does that dictate that you have to be in more residential areas than the high foot traffic, high volume business center, for example?
Not necessarily, because we can perform in all those environments because, and I've been in, I've been in pizza, Mexican, chicken. I've been in all the different segments, and I would say this is the only segment where our lunch and dinners are both phenomenal, right? Usually in some segment, it's a soft lunch and a really busy dinner, busy nights, busy weekends, or it's a busy lunch, no dinner. Um, we thrive in both lunch and dinner, so we can thrive in both of those environments. What we do is we have great operators, and our operators have great managers, and great managers develop excellent frontline people. And so sometimes it's just communicating, with a guest and our team. Like obviously at lunchtime, if it's a business crowd coming in, we know the ticket time is a lot more sensitive because people are on a time schedule.
Hmm.
When someone orders a well done steak or lamb, we let them know, hey, this takes a little bit longer. Can we get you a salad? Can we get you this? If you wait, can we get you a drink while you're waiting? So a lot of that is really, you can play it to your advantage if your team's trained correctly to do the correct things, and the guests appreciate it because I'll wait 5 minutes more for a much better food than just going to get something that's pre-cooked and delivered to me. So there is a balance there. We're cognizant of it. I think that's an important
Sure.
part of it, is that we train to it. We're cognizant of it. We're still trying to push things out as fast as they can, but we like to say our people get and enjoy our food twice with their eyes because we have beautiful plates. So when you see our plate,
Hmm.
it's big, it's plentiful, it's beautiful, and then when they taste it, then they're as excited about the way it looks. So we match that expectation visually, and so it's worked real well for us.
Sure. Well, then tell me about sort of translating that into the off-premises business, because I imagine last 3 years that's become very necessary for you. How do you create a fine, fast casual experience via off-premises channels?
Yeah, a lot of people ask this question, and if they really go back and think about what was happening in this business before COVID, okay, if you were had your head down and had a strategic plan, it was really to explore the opportunities in off premise. So
Hmm.
for us, COVID really made us accelerate it, good or bad, right? Some things forced faster decisions. Maybe we wish we had more time. We had to deploy technology a lot faster because when this happened, we were maybe 6 stores,
Mm.
but it accelerated all those initiatives for us. So the great thing about Greek food is very communal, right? So it's perfect for the family. It's a great alternative to all the other options, whether it's fast food or even some casual, because the perception of I'm going to get a much healthier experience, it's shared much better,
Hmm.
and so the food travels exceptionally well. We package it and it travels well. It's salad, it's rice, it's chicken. We package it well, and I would say for those reasons, um, we get a much better result 30, 45 minutes from the time the food was cooked. And so our guests recognize that, and they enjoy their food as much at home as they do in the restaurant. And we monitor our feedback, and we're seeing it. People are really enjoying it, but it's very shareable, right? It's very
Yeah.
communal, and so people like that. And I think it's more the consumer changing than us, right? So for me,
Mm.
prior to COVID, I ate out all the time, always in a restaurant. I never took food home.
Right.
During COVID, I did more taking it home, and I felt there was a good rhythm about that too, and I got much more comfortable. So even from my experience as an individual, I can see that happening with other people. They're much more open to getting food in the restaurant and taking it home. And then it's on, hey, what kind of food are we serving that travels and goes home? And I would say
Yeah.
for the catering environment, delivery, pickup, taking it home, the food just if it's prepared right and packaged right, it travels really well, and that
Yeah.
really boosts our brand.
Well, and to that end, food quality is one thing, but I think about like if part of the brand promise for Great Greek is great service and a real plate, how do you make up for those things in the off premises part of it, right? So like the food's great, but like, do you feel pressure to elevate the packaging? What does service look like? How do you ensure that it's not just the food that's traveling well, but it's actually the experience that's traveling well?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that, right? There's when the guests, if they're coming into the restaurant to pick it up, that we make that part of the transaction very welcoming, friendly. You still have the same expectations of facility, as you do if someone's dining, if someone's coming in, they're doing and processing the same way. But we want to have that acknowledgement. We want to let them know we know you're there. Their order is either ready or it's going to be ready in next time. I think right now, how we see it, a lot of our focus now is investing in what the digital customer journey is like.
Mm,
Okay, so how are they finding out about us to clicking our website all the way into online ordering? That is the new dining in your restaurant, in my
right.
opinion, right? It's what is that experience, and that's one of the things that we're working on. That's right now, that's our biggest objectives. We do the other things really well. There's areas we're still working on improving, but now digitally we're making the investments to improve what that experience is like. And for us, it's been clunky in some cases, and that's our goal. People are thinking, am I having Great Greek or am I having X brand, which are usually, some of the greatest brands in the world. And so we
Hmm.
have to raise our digital game. And you usually don't have those internal resources. So we have to build those resources internally, have partnerships with people externally. But that for us is, we think that's really where this industry is going, is what is that digital journey like, whether they've been to the brand and are coming back to order, or they're getting to a rewards program, or they haven't heard about us yet, and we're connecting in the right ways with the right people to bring them into that journey.
Yeah, I like that. That's so important. You mentioned franchising being very key to the Great Greeks expansion strategy. For something that is really leaning into quality as a core component of the brand, how do you franchise while ensuring that quality? Because franchising, of course, give up a little bit of your control to some owner operators. I know some people hesitate if they're really focused on quality just because they feel like they give up too much control over that. How do you make sure that you can franchise with the right partners who also are ensuring that quality?
Yeah, franchising, does have some of those challenges, but some of those same challenges exist in a corporate environment, right? So it comes down to who are the people, right? And for us, and we're part of, Star Point Brands and UFG. We've been in the franchising. Titus family's been in franchising for, I don't know, probably 50 years now. So it comes down to how you select people. And in the past, in other brands I've been with, it's selection more on their experience or what name brands they've been with. And I found, even over that life cycle, that's not always the most important thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. I brought well, so my point is, we focus on the individual and their passion for delivering a great food experience to someone. So give me that person, and we can train them, teach them. We have great systems. Our menu's easy to execute. Like, just give me the person who has great passion and discipline in that environment. And that's what we do. That's what
Hmm.
we select. We have great training. And in fact, we're so proud of our operations team, our training team, to our franchise operators and the frontline employees, because if you look at our reviews across our brand, and we get about 1,000 of them, we track our reviews and we really push for those reviews, and we're about 4.5 on average. We're 4.6, 4.5 across the board on all platforms. And
Oh,
so that's one of the things that tells us that we are holding to that passion. People are executing, and those things that happen. But if you strip all that away, it's the passion and commitment of that operator to deliver this experience that they signed up for. And it's not foolproof, but
yeah.
to me, it's not foolproof if someone's working for me in a corporate. I still need that same person who has that passion, the drive, the discipline to follow the system to deliver. So that's what we really focus on our time. Yeah, if they've been in the restaurant business, that's good, but more important is what is your passion to deliver a great experience to a guest,
Right.
being more of that servant leadership style for the front line, and we feel like we do it well, we train well, and it's a great environment for people to be in, and there's something to be said about that as well.
I imagine, I mean, you guys occupy such a unique corner of the food service industry. I imagine that must lead to a lot of franchise demand, right? Because you typically see, franchise pretty heavy on the QSR side of things and into fast casual. But this fine fast casual, I can't imagine there are a lot of brands out there occupying that space that are also franchises. Do you find that that's the case?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's you have to have strong systems and strong people to ensure that the end result is the experience you want. Kind of to your point earlier, are we going in the face of what's typically happening in our business where people are looking for ways to do less prep and have things pre-made and pre-ready? I don't think the experience is just about speed of service. Otherwise, you know, just the fastest restaurant. So it is about the speed of service that someone's acceptable to have for the value of the experience they're about to have.
Yeah.
So it is, as I tell people who I'm talking to, who are looking at the franchise, it's a commitment you have to make, right? Maybe a food product because the quality of it is a little bit more, and maybe
Hmm.
your labor is a little bit more. As we grow, we bring those things down. We continue to do that, but it's a commitment that you make. But our price point, we get a better price point. We get more repeat visits. People put themselves on a food schedule, right? I can only eat
Hmm.
maybe burgers so much or pizza so much. I could eat a salad every day. I
Hmm.
could eat a salad with chicken on it every day. I can have it for lunch and dinner and not feel like, oh, I got to stop doing this. For me, it would, for most people, it's, well, I got to do this more. It's healthy for me. I enjoy it. So there's a lot of advantages from that sense of being in the space. And it's not just salad. I could have steak. I can have, our rice bowls are very popular. And there's
Hmm.
also indulgence. So it just when it comes together, it really satisfies a lot of different needs for people, and that's what really drives the whole experience around the brand and the operators and the franchisees. They see that because they go into our restaurants, they meet us, we show them that hey, these are the things that we do and we expect you to lead, but this is the reward for it, and that's the key thing. We get
Hmm.
rewarded by more visits, and we give them more value, but our ticket prices are our averages are much higher than typical brands. So
Hmm.
advantage for us in all those factors.
Yeah.
But the key thing is that you have to execute. You have to execute the food, and you have to execute what the value of that experience is. And we do that at a very high rate, and that's ultimately what drives the success of the brand.
So tell me about the innovation process, menu innovation in particular, because Mediterranean food, Greek food, it's so rooted in tradition. It's so rooted in, these centuries, millennia old practices and foods and recipes. And obviously, you still have to engage the customer. You got to bring something kind of fun and fresh. How do you do that when you are so rooted in authentic flavors that are rooted in history?
Yeah, the innovation part for us of the food, of the menu, of that offering, we're just not there yet, right? Because we're just getting into in the oldest market we're in, other than where we originated, we're going into the fourth year.
Hmm.
So we haven't had that saturation and the mundane of coming in doing the same thing. Our focus is right now is how do we get the width out into more places and just and more markets and and that's working well. We see our guests continue to come back, and we have 5 different proteins on our menu. So to answer your question, really, we're not focused on the innovation of the menu. Where we're really
Mm,
focused our innovation on is what I mentioned earlier. What things can we do with technology that really puts us on par or ahead of the leading brands. And that's an area that we can close that gap a lot easier than have a food innovation thing. So right now it's like deliver this food, it's great. Let's do it consistently. Let's innovate on how we can have the experience from finding out to us to getting the food as good as the food, and then we'll come to a point. Right now we're looking to lift our beverage program, so we feel like, hey,
okay.
this is an area to bring in some non-carbonated drinks, maybe a hibiscus or green tea. We feel like that's a really great pairing for our guests, so we're working with our beverage partners, and we're about to move into the test. So that if you look at the innovative role, we just feel like there's an opportunity um, to raise our beverage program game for that more so than the food right now.
Do you do alcohol service? Is that part of the Great Greek?
We allow we allow beer and wine, and some of our restaurants do it, and it's not. We don't encourage it. We don't discourage it. It's just it's not a mover. It does create some challenges in the sense of inventory. You got to handle a little bit different. You have to make sure someone's certain age who's
Hmm.
serving it to someone. So we usually lay out those things. I like to tell operators, hey, open your restaurants, get a couple open. When you're now looking to get some incremental income, you can go back and add it. It's not a big mover for us. I do believe because we see in our restaurants we see a lot of water drinkers, and there are a segment of that are only drinking water, but there's a segment where they just go default water because they're not happy with the other choices. That is a challenge for us that we think we have a great
Hmm.
plan to solve, and move them into a premium drink.
Interesting point. Water drinkers potential. It's a potential beverage sale right there.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So taking a step back, I want to talk about the Mediterranean category broadly because, to your point, I mean this category in the last decade's really taken off, partly because of the health connotations of the food, partly because it's just delicious and people are discovering that more and more people are discovering that. You do have a lot of competitors in the Mediterranean fast casual space. Give me a gut check of where you feel the category is today, Mediterranean fast casual, because it's been one of the hottest things going for the last several years. I guess what I always wonder is, does it get to a point where it's like Mexican food, where Mexican food permeates every community in America? And yes, there are differentiating factors between Mexican brands, but it's almost like proximity to Mexican restaurants, almost the most important thing to determine whether you go there or not. Is Mediterranean food there? Does it get there, or is it different than Mexican food in that way? In that you have to find other differentiating factors to ensure they're coming to the Great Greek rather than your competitors.
relative to Mexican food, I think if you take out the alcohol of what's served in a Mexican restaurant and compare it food to food, I think ultimately the Mediterranean space will be larger than that. Now, that's
Mm.
a little ways out. These are the things I can tell you I see with the trends now and what our guests tell us is one, it's not complicated food, right? It's very simple. So almost anybody can understand it, whether whatever part of the world you come from. It's salad, it's rice, it's chicken, it's gyro might be unusual to someone, but I mean it's basic food put together in a way with great flavor. And to me, that is what makes it easy and welcoming from someone. Whether I grew up in an Italian family on the Mediterranean, there's a lot of Middle Eastern people who come in. We have Asian people, we have Mexican people. So we're seeing it now that any culture you come from, you're feeling comfortable um, with the space. The the ultimate vision for the Mediterranean space, I think, when I mentioned those, I don't know about unit count if there's going to be more. but I can tell you the incidence of business of people coming and repeat business and the period of time they're doing that, it's something that's just mind-boggling to me. The
Yeah,
difference that I see is, going back to, Chipotle has created a great brand and a great business and a great um, production style of delivering food that people really like. And it seems to me a lot of people are looking to be the next Chipotle of whatever.
sure.
And we feel like that's great. And there's guests who are going to want that. But we feel like we have a better balance that we'll still have a great lunch. People love us at dinner, and they don't always want that experience. And so we're giving them an experience that they want really great quality food in a way like they would eat it at their home. And
Right.
you don't eat like that at a home. You don't walk down the line and say, "Give me a little bit of that." So to me, I think the consumer gets tired of that after a while,
Yeah.
and we have the advantage then over that. And so, I see that's going to be the separation of the business and the execution of the flavor profiles to the consumer's palate. And
Yeah.
it's the other thing we see happen really interesting. Um, and Middle Eastern has their style. As I mentioned, I'm Italian. We have our style. There's the Greek style, and there's some slight differences, but there's a heck of a lot more commonality of it. And
Yeah.
I found really interesting conversation when I'm having those with individual guests.
This is just sort of speaking from personal experience, but I do wonder if this is true of many Americans, which is I often have ingredients in my fridge to put together a Mexican meal, or I at least know what to buy at the grocery store to assemble a Mexican meal. That is not true of Mediterranean flavors. I don't tend to have Mediterranean flavors on hand. I don't know if I walk into a grocery store thinking I want to have a Mediterranean meal. I could throw a couple things in my basket that I know will work, but I'm not I don't really know what the recipes are. I couldn't throw that together in a pinch. Do you think that's the case? I mean, we're not at that point where it's permeated the culture enough that people turn to restaurants more for Mediterranean food than they might prepare it at home because they're just not as familiar with it?
Yeah, it's an evolution, but I talk to people who do it at home because it's easy actually to do at
Mm,
home. It's just like some flavors and marinades. I think it evolves to that, right? It wasn't like that when Mexican first started getting popular.
right.
You're probably not cooking Asian food at home,
True.
right?
Yeah.
So I do think there's an evolution because you are seeing people cooking with Asian flavors at home, some
Hmm.
Mexican spice, chilies, whatever it is, flavor at home. I believe that the food channels and the food networks, okay, play a major role in people's comfort with food and exploring. So my experience is over the years, as more of those shows come on, give people more exposure, people are more comfortable um, walking into a restaurant and having
Yeah.
that experience. They feel a little educated now, and we see a lot of that, right? A lot more Mediterranean types of restaurants are on the radar of those networks. So the more that happens, the more people are comfortable with it. I do think the main thing, if you get them in that restaurant, it's simple, it's not intimidating. There's
Yeah.
not that fear, fright standing at the yeah, I want a salad with chicken on it. I mean, that's not, or give me a rice bowl and I'll have steak or shrimp on it. And how do you
Right.
cook we grill your shrimp, And so the ease of it, I think, is what really helps accelerate it. Of course, the more it gets out in the media, the TV shows, but I really do think in all food spaces that the food channels play a major role on what people are feeling comfortable and venturous to do. Other than the people who I'll go eat almost anywhere and go check it out. But I'm in the food business, so
Right.
but a lot of people aren't like that. But I still have. I call it, order fright. You're standing at the register and you can't figure out what you want, and I know that's real for people. So we try to make it really break it down and make it really simple, and I think that's what people like. That's why they can come in and jump in and um, get with this style of food fast. So ultimately, I see the space um, growing beyond some of the food itself. It
Hmm.
doesn't it doesn't have a big alcohol component to it. I don't believe.
Sure.
But the
Okay.
food itself, I think, man, this is something unlike anything I've seen at the way people will come in and visit the brand.
Sure. Yeah. Um, Turning our attention now a little bit to the future, um, considering everything we've been through in the last several years, what are some things you're doing right now to prepare the Great Greek for the future? And not to set you up too much, but everybody I talk to right now is talking about efficiency, talking about trimming the fat of the last couple of years, figuring out how to make a more efficient business. Does that resonate with you? What does it look like right now to set the Great Greek up for success in the future?
So first, it starts with our partners, right? Who are we partnering ourselves with? So as I mentioned earlier, today we sit here trailing a $50 million brand, but we're going to be 12 months from now 100 million, right? And maybe 2 years from now 200 million. So we're right now working, and we look at our partners and who are the partners we're working with, not for today, or what are you going to bring to us to get me here in the fastest amount of time, but the most effective way. So
Hmm.
it starts with those partners, and then it really starts with our team really having the pulse on what the consumer um, is wanting and what the operators are giving, what the feedback we're getting from them. So we get all those three, coming in, and that's how we make our decisions. So, for example, we see it used to be you walk into an empty space that you think is going to be a great location for your brand, and you try to figure out how many seats you can get in that restaurant.
Yeah.
Now we walk into a space and we think, how can I shrink this space to have minimum amount of seats that provides a good balance and flow to a restaurant. So the process in many of these things have flipped upside down.
Yeah.
Um, there's some markets we want 30, 40 seats. There's places we feel like, you know what, if we have no seats, I think we can thrive. In fact, we're opening our first um, non-traditional retail site. It's basically going to be a pickup delivery catering. It sits outside of the University of Maryland, one of the biggest
Hmm.
universities in the country. It's going to open here in the next 30, 45 days. And so we're really excited about that. So, again, going back to the innovation and the future, we feel like we best position the brand to have a flexible model. Not the menu stays the same. We want to drive those same things. So we plant our flag there. And then so everything we're doing is around delivering that great food experience. So we have a number of, initiatives that we're working on that side. Is how do we use those spaces to take advantage of the business moving off premise, and making it, a better return for our operator and investors. So those are the
Yeah.
things that we're pushing at. Again, with partners, it's really important to negotiate the right pricing levels, but I also find there's a part B to that. It's really important to have the right partners who can help you navigate, bring you some ideas, work on some solutions for you. As you could imagine, going from 10 stores to 15 to 50 to 100, there's a lot of stress and pressure on a lot of parts of that system. So, we work about 12 to 18 months out ahead is where we are. That's about as far as we get out. So, for example,
Yeah.
this project, University of Maryland, we started looking for this type of project probably about 18 months ago, and we'll
Okay.
do a couple of them this year. And but we still feel like a well-positioned restaurant that accommodates a certain level of seating. We have made, so we've adjusted, that format to have, more efficient pickup areas for the guests, more efficient pickup for our third party partners. We try to get walk up windows. It works really good for third party partners. They don't have to kind of fight through our restaurants. So there are a lot of efficiencies that we've added in those particular ways. But I think ultimately we're seeing smaller footprint, same quality of food, same speed. Off premises is accelerating. Delivery, catering are the fastest growing parts of our business. We already had a robust takeout business, and our dine-in incidence is still really robust. But It doesn't require the type of space we needed pre-pandemic.
Yeah,
And
and go and going back to that concept of the flexible prototype you were talking about, the flexible store model. I guess that makes me wonder, like, how do you prioritize? What are you prioritizing in your expansion? Are you looking for? Do you just wait and see what opportunities are available? Hey, this real estate's here. Could we envision a great Greek here? Or is there some intentionality behind the properties you're looking for, with some strategy behind? Okay, we're going to do some express models here. We're going to do a full, big box model here. What does that prioritization, I guess, look like in the expansion?
yeah, I think that process is probably a little dynamic. It's not so static, right? We don't say, I want to go to this market and do this type of site and think that's the only thing that we'll do. The
Hmm.
As you know, the real estate is an extremely important part of the success of a brand, and we
Hmm.
find that the highest quality properties have the highest quality brands, and so we're competing with those brands to get in those sites. So I just find to be most efficient and opportunistic, it's easier to say I have these four different types of concepts that I can place into a great real estate play. And that's to me more important than just saying I have this rigid floor plan that needs to go somewhere. It just doesn't work like that for us today. Maybe when we're a $1 billion brand, that changes a little bit. Those dynamics are starting to change as people get more familiar with the brand. They're coming to us. They
Hmm.
want a higher end Mediterranean space to pair with their other great national brands, and those are the scenarios we're looking for. So you'll see our restaurants opposite in caps of a Panera, Chipotle, Starbucks, because it's like your parents said, right? You are who you hang around with, right? Your friends, and there's
Yeah,
some truth to that in this business, in the sense that um, it elevates it elevates for everybody, and it brings customers in for everyone, and so it's highly competitive. It's as competitive getting great sites as it is to competitive to have people come to the Great Greek to eat over those competitors. It is something we're
sure.
constantly looking at, and we just feel we bring a great amount of traffic to centers. But if we can be flexible, then we can be in more great sites, and so that's where it starts. So I want to go in this market, and then I have the flexibility to do this, to do that, to the if I had, if in a perfect world, I'd much rather open. So in at the University of Maryland market, I would have much rather had some traditional restaurants first before we open that. It doesn't always work out that way, and so we had to make a
Yeah.
decision. So we have a commitment to do those other ones, and we're working on one or two other sites that we're open, but it will be after. So the first experience is going to be the walk up. So that's part of the brand that we have to communicate to the guests that come in, that this is a certain type of experience, and you might have 3 miles away another great Greek, or 4 miles away that
Sure.
you can sit down and eat.
Yeah. All right, Bob. Last question for you. Just thinking about, you mentioned you've had this long career in the food service space. You've had a lot of experience at a lot of brands. What's at least one lesson you've picked up with the Great Greek? It can be more than one, but just for those folks listening, one lesson you have learned from this brand that you would share with the audience.
For me, it goes back to people. I mean, I learned
Mm,
this at every brand. You have to surround yourself with good people who are passionate as you are, and really understand whatever it is their discipline is in a very, very smart way. A lot of people want to be this, a lot of leaders I see, they want to be the smartest person in the room. I always feel like if I'm not hiring people who think different than I do, are smarter than I, have more experience in an area, guy, that I don't move that needle. So I just find overall, it always comes down to that same thing, is the people, and staying disciplined to that. is really hard. So I would say number one, especially if you're growing an emerging brand, and I know it's the resources aren't always there, but get people who have a lot of experience growing emerging brands. It's quite different than growing a brand that's a global company and has
Yeah.
a couple of thousand locations. So it's a quite a different approach. I would say that's to me is always the biggest lesson. Um, on the food side, um, I think the lesson coming through the pandemic is just stick to your gut and stick to what made this brand what it is, and the discipline in doing that, and figure out how do you continue to bring that same experience no matter what's happening in pricing the commodities. There was just a lot of pressure, and one thing we did, we didn't shrink portion size, we didn't drop down quality. We stayed right there, and our guests rewarded us. So
Mm.
to me, that was the part B. Great people, and just
Yeah.
stick to those core beliefs and values about whatever it is. And we never changed there, but we had to work really, really hard to figure it out.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Bob Andersen of The Great Greek. Bob, thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time and for your insight.
Thanks, Sam. Great to be here.
Have you heard about the California Food Service Instant Rebate Program? You can save up to $3,000 instantly on energy-efficient food service equipment when you purchase from participating dealers. Find out more at www.caenergywise.com/instant-rebates and find a participating dealer near you. Skip the paperwork and save instantly on your food service equipment. That's www.caenergywise.com/instant-rebates. That was my interview with Bob Andersen, the president of the Great Greek Mediterranean Grill. So what should you learn from this interview? Here are my 6 takeaways. My first takeaway is that improving the quality of your food has a direct impact on the guest experience. Of course, everybody is trying to make the best food possible, high quality food. That's not something that you need to be told to do. High quality food is something you're usually striving to do. But with a concept like the Great Greek, which is really hanging its hat on quality, they see that this impacts the kind of concept that they're offering. It impacts what you do in the dining room. It impacts when your guests come. If you're focused on quality with high quality ingredients, people might come in more for dinner than they would come in for lunch. Or if you are doing this high quality food too, you might do something like have real plateware and not have trash receptacles, as Bob talked about at the Great Greek. All of these things are impacted by the quality that you are producing. So think about your concept and how the food and the quality of the food, the quality of the ingredients that you're offering, how all of this is impacting the broader brand experience, and make sure those things are in concert with each other as well, because you don't want a high quality menu with a low quality experience. All of these things really have to be symbiotic with each other so that the guest experience stays high quality too. My second takeaway is that longer ticket times are not impossible in fast casual, but you should communicate those ticket times to your guests. The reason I say this is because high quality food does tend to mean longer ticket times. And in fast casual, when you think a lot about high traffic volume restaurants in very urban settings, perhaps a lot of lunch business, rush hour, this kind of business is traditionally what a lot of fast casuals are aiming for. The Great Greek is trying to slow things down. They want to say, oh, well, it could take 8 minutes to make your lamb gyro. And as Bob said, that's not a bad thing. And people are willing to wait. However, it doesn't mean that you should just not do anything and wait around for 8 minutes until their food is ready. You should talk to the guests while they're waiting. You should offer them a drink, offer them an appetizer. I really appreciated this about the Great Greek and how Bob said that they're not stressing too much. They're not rushing it, but they're also recognizing that they can't take forever to make their food. So they're trying to find that right balance of ticket times, and in doing so, have this opportunity to communicate with their guests and make sure they can improve the experience by bringing them extra things or upselling perhaps again to an appetizer or to a beverage. So think about that with your own concept. If you have longer ticket times, or if you're trying to make your ticket times shorter at the risk of the quality of your food, maybe you should consider taking a step back, re-examining those ticket times, taking the risk of lengthening those times and finding some opportunity with that time, because guests will wait for better food, but you don't want it to feel too long or too awkward as they're waiting. My third takeaway is that a great training program is key to franchising an upscale concept. I think it's a bit of a misnomer now, but I did want to bring it up with Bob, which is you have heard a lot in the past that that restaurants focused on high quality tend to not franchise because there's an issue with control. Famously, this is Chipotle's deal. They don't want to franchise Chipotle, or they didn't in the early days under Steve Ells, because he was way too concerned that if you franchise a concept, you give up a lot of that control to a franchisee who might not be able to execute as well as somebody who is a corporate employee. Again, that's a little bit at this point. I think that might be a little bit of an outdated idea. But if that idea exists with you or somebody you know or a brand you've worked with, I think Bob's advice was really key here, which is to say that training can overcome that challenge. If you've got a great training program and you're very discerning of the franchisees you bring in, you're looking for somebody who is disciplined, you're looking for somebody who has experience as an operator before, so long as you train them very, very well according to your brand standards and they can execute that, then there's no problem whether it's a corporate or whether it's a franchisee location, because everybody is playing from the same playbook. So consider that. To franchise a high quality concept, it's not impossible. You just have to make sure that the training is in place. My fourth takeaway is that water drinkers are an upsell opportunity. I kind of laugh because, well, yeah, of course, water drinkers are an upsell opportunity, but you might not be thinking about this very much. How many people are drinking water in your restaurant because they don't like the other options available to them? I don't really think about that too much, but Bob clearly is at the Great Greek. He said that a lot of people tend to get water because they don't see anything else on the menu that is appealing to them. Certainly in restaurants that just have a soda fountain, what if somebody doesn't drink soda or they don't like the product available? Somebody has extensive alcohol list and they're not an alcohol drinker. All of this is to say that a lot of people, if they don't see the beverage option available to them that they want, they just settle on water, which is free, or should be anyway. How can you upsell those people? Come up with a better beverage program. What are some non-soda, non-alcoholic beverages that you can develop in your restaurant to capture that person who's looking for something different? It could even be a water product. It could be a sparkling water, which is obviously increasingly popular today. Think about that. Think about how many people drink water in your restaurant. Think about your beverage offerings. How can you expand your beverage menu to make sure there's something for everyone? My fifth takeaway is that the build your own fast casual model has its limitations. Everybody wanted to be the Chipotle of something about 10 years ago. Chipotle had taken what Subway had done, the customizable menu, point at the ingredients and say, I want that, and applied it to fast casual, and it boomed. And it still is incredibly successful, and that's great. However, as Bob pointed out, a lot of people want to eat somewhere, especially if they're going out for dinner and they want a high quality meal. They want to feel like they're at home. They want to feel like they're getting a homemade meal in a comfortable setting. And to his point, you don't eat like that at home. You don't go, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. And so the Great Greek is trying to offer this scratch-made food that is not the customizable model like you see at a Chipotle, and trying to really elevate the quality in that way. And he believes that the build your own fast casual model, that's the limitation there, is that not everybody wants to eat that way. Now, it could be still good. Everybody could still be okay with it for like a quick lunch, but especially if you're leaning into dinner, that's not really what guests might want. And he thinks that maybe guests are getting kind of tired of that model. I don't think the build your own fast casual model is going anywhere. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But consider that maybe guests want something else, even if it's not a full service restaurant, even if it's a fast casual restaurant. Maybe there's another service model, another menu model you could pursue to give them something a little bit different, a little bit higher quality. My sixth and final takeaway is that a flexible footprint will help you win the competition for real estate. You all know that competition for real estate is difficult right now. It's a tight competition. And Bob talked about the fact that Great Greek is staying flexible in their model, and that's especially seen in this new unit they're opening at the University of Maryland. that is primarily for pickup, delivery, and catering. It's going to be their first non-traditional location, focused primarily just on that off-premises business. And he used that as an example of how if they stay flexible and say, well, we could do a big footprint with lots of seating, or we could do a small footprint for pickup only, by keeping that range of options, landlords, it's easier to work with a landlord and get real estate that makes sense for you. As you expand your concept into new regions and new markets, you're not always going to get to be choosy with the kind of real estate you get. So if you have that flexibility, you give yourself a lot more options. And again, landlords will want to work with somebody who's flexible versus somebody who's very rigid in the footprint that they're looking for. I think it's a great lesson for everybody in growth mode to try to stay flexible so you keep your options open and more easily be able to expand into the kind of markets that you're looking to expand into. Those are all my takeaways for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe to Takeaway wherever you listen to podcasts and leave your feedback. You can also email me at sam.oches@informa.com. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you next week.